I was pregnant, but my boyfriend cheated on me. I went abroad alone and gave birth to the child. For years later, I was forced to return to my home country. When he saw the child by my side, he broke down. Here lay the memories of her youth, her beloved family, and that one person, the man whose identity as her child's father she would never reveal, not even on her deathbed. Returning to hometown, Liliana's heart was a storm of emotions. That year, she was only 20. She mistook the early bleeding of her pregnancy as her monthly cycle, only realizing something was amiss when she was already 3 months along. Risking her father's wrath, she begged him to let her go abroad to have the child. This time, her grandmother's illness and her sister's wedding forced her to return. Bring little Cassius back so your grandmother can see him, her mother had said over the phone, leaving her no choice but to agree. When the plane landed, little Cassius was fast asleep. Liliana carried him home. Let me hold little Cassius. You go rest, Grace's father said, taking his grandson from her and urging her upstairs. Your dad was pacing all night, wondering why the plane hadn't landed yet, Grace's mother said as she opened the curtains, letting sunlight flood the room. Liliana glanced out the window at the room next door, so close that in the past, he only needed to step over to reach her. Her mother's movements interrupted her reverie. After Uncle Donaldson passed away, Cassie said he wouldn't sell the house. He's keeping it for when he gets married, Grace's mother chatted idly. Liliana climbed into bed, pulled the blanket over herself, and found her thoughts drifting back to the year she was 14. The Grace family had 3 sisters, the eldest, Lydia, the middle sister, Liliana, and the youngest, Lavinia. Lydia was intelligent and confident, a frequent winner in debates and essay competitions, a classic ice queen beauty. Lavinia was a prodigy whose artwork was published by renowned presses. Liliana was neither as accomplished as Lydia nor as talented as Lavinia. Every year, her school report read the same, mild-mannered, academically average, with limited interests. Until the day he moved into the neighborhood. He became the sole focus of her attention. The day the Donaldson family moved in coincided with the traditional Halloween. The Grace family ran a fruit stand, and 14-year-old Liliana often helped out during school holidays to earn some pocket money. That day, Liliana said to her father, "Dad, someone just moved in next door. It's a father and son. Take a watermelon over later to greet them," Grace's father suggested. Liliana placed the watermelon in her bike's basket and prepared to ride to the new neighbor's house, but the bike toppled over due to the uneven weight. Suddenly, a figure approached and helped lift her bike. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine, thank you," Liliana replied. "I'm Cassidy Donaldson, but everyone calls me Cassie." "And you are?" "Liliana." Liliana's first impression of Cassie was simply that he was the new neighbor, so unremarkable that even his figure seemed blurred in her memory. One day, Liliana opened her window to let in fresh air, only to see Cassie lying motionless on the floor across from her. She tried calling out to him, but he didn't respond. Panic rising in her chest, she quickly took out the spare key Uncle Donaldson had left with her family and ran straight to his room. "Cassie." She reached a hand under his nose and felt hot breaths. She let out a sigh of relief, he was still alive. It wasn't just his breath, Cassie's entire body radiated heat, reminding Liliana of red-hot embers in a fire. Realizing she couldn't move him on her own, Liliana leaned down to his ear and whispered, "Cassie, it's me, Liliana. Hang in there. I'll go get some fever medicine." With that, Liliana dashed home, efficiently grabbing in fever medicine lying on the dining table. Back in Cassie's room, Liliana knelt by his side. "Cassie. Cassie." She tried shaking Cassie, whose face was contorted in pain, but he remained unconscious. She dampened a towel and pressed it against his lips, but he frowned, unable to drink any water. "Water?" he murmured weakly in frustration. Liliana took a sip of water, then, without hesitation, leaned down and pressed her lips to his. There was no technique involved. All she wanted was to deliver the warm water from her mouth into Cassie's. Cassie, like a parched fish, parted his lips slightly, eagerly seeking the relief of water. Instinctively, he sucked on Liliana's small lips. Startled by Cassie's survival instincts, Liliana quickly pulled away, her mind a whirlwind of confusion. What had been a simple act of providing water now felt strangely intimate, making her realize her actions might not have been entirely appropriate. A kiss? She wiped the moisture from her lips and used all her strength to shake Cassie awake. At last, she managed to get him to take the fever medicine. In the days that followed, a budding, inexplicable affection began to bloom within young Liliana. It was the first time, and the first person, who had stirred the calm waters of her heart for no apparent reason.